Now, with all the ancillary stuff out of the way, let's talk about how it drives. This being the hybrid model, gets a 2.5-litre petrol engine under the hood and an electric motor too. What's instantly noticeable is that it's a lot quieter and smoother than the standard car, and that's because most of the time it's using the battery and electric motor, meaning the engine is completely switched off. Compared to the standard car, there are three main differences with this hybrid model. Firstly, it's more powerful. That's because the electric motor gives it 37 more horsepower, taking total output up to 215 horsepower. Secondly, it gets a 50-litre fuel tank as opposed to a 60-litre tank in the standard car. And lastly, it gets a CVT transmission that helps it save fuel as opposed to a 6-speed automatic in the standard car. Speaking of saving fuel, I'd like to highlight that the Camry Hybrid runs on regular petrol. It doesn't require any special type of fuel or anything like that, and I'm just clarifying this because I recently had someone ask me that very question. You fill it up at the petrol station and drive, just like you would with any other car. The only difference is you'll notice just how fuel efficient it really is. To give you a better understanding of what I'm talking about, the Camry Hybrid claims to average 26 kilometers per litre. And while that's a figure you could probably achieve in ideal conditions, even in the real world, as I'm driving right now, I'm averaging 20 kilometers per litre, and that's amazing. Think about it this way. If you're someone like me who does approximately 60 kilometers per day to the office and back home, all you'd need is 3 liters of fuel to cover that distance in the Camry Hybrid. 3! Just like in the standard Camry, there are 3 drive modes: Eco, Normal and Sport. But the addition in the hybrid model is an EV mode. Although you can drive the car on battery power alone, there's no cable or plugging the car in to charge it up. Instead, it charges while you drive, while coasting or braking, and you can see that on a gauge in the instrument cluster. Now in the UAE, the Corolla is available with a choice of 3 engines. There's a 1.6 litre, a 1.8 litre and a 2 litre unit. The Corolla Hybrid uses the 1.8 litre engine, and when paired with an electric motor, it produces a combined output of 168 horsepower and 305 Newton meters of torque. What those numbers mean is that the Corolla Hybrid is the most powerful amongst all its rivals. But don't read into that too deeply. Despite having the edge on power, the Corolla Hybrid isn't sporty in any way whatsoever. If you want a car that's fun to drive, look away from the Corolla and start walking towards the Honda Civic. But if you want the most fuel-efficient car in the segment, then it's definitely the Corolla Hybrid. Its 43-litre fuel tank delivers over 750 kilometers per tank, and that's something I've simply never come across in a sedan before. This is made possible by the CVT gearbox and intelligent systems that work together to decide if the car should use the electric motor at slow speeds, the engine at slightly higher speeds, or both for maximum power. In terms of drive modes, there's 3: Eco, Power and Normal, with each adjusting how high the CVT gearbox holds the revs when accelerating. Speaking of the CVT gearbox, unlike most cars that come with an automatic transmission, there's P for parking, R for reverse, N for neutral, D for drive, and then there's B for braking. Essentially, when driving in B, the car increases the amount of regenerative braking every time you lift your foot off the accelerator pedal, allowing the batteries to charge quicker. Powered by a 41 kilowatt battery pack that delivers up to 300 kilometers per charge, the Zoe's electric motor pushes the equivalent of 92 horsepower and 220 Newton meters of torque through a single-speed gearbox to reach 100 kilometers per hour in an eerily quiet 13.2 seconds. Although normal in many aspects, Driving the Zoe feels a lot like driving a golf cart with seat belts, and it offers an eco drive mode to maximize efficiency. To give your eyes a break from the range meter and to ease off the range anxiety that is bound to kick in, the Zoe is equipped with regenerative braking that converts kinetic energy into chemical energy and stores it in the battery for use later on. Powering the Chevrolet Bolt is a 60 kilowatt battery pack that produces the equivalent of 204 horsepower and 360 Newton meters of torque. While it doesn't sound like much, the Bolt is tuned for acceleration rather than top speed, and so it does feel fast when you put your foot down. Much faster, in fact, than its claim time of 7.3 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour. Like all other EVs out there, the Bolt is equipped with regenerative braking, meaning every time you press the brake pedal, it converts the kinetic energy that was being used to push the car forwards into electricity and saves it in the battery for use later on. While regenerative braking is an automatic process in the Bolt, Chevrolet has added two mechanisms to maximize the benefit of this process. These are regen on demand and one-pedal driving. Regen on demand is controlled through a paddle behind the steering wheel and acts as a second brake to increase the brake force and create more electricity. On the other hand, one-pedal driving is achieved by driving in low mode and at any speed. You can slow down and come to a complete stop by simply lifting your foot off the accelerator pedal. In turn, you maximize your driving range, you reduce energy wasted, and if you think about it, you also extend the life of your brake pads. But now, let's keep all of that aside and answer the important stuff, like how many kilometers can you expect on a full charge? And more importantly, how long does it take to charge? The Bolt claims a NEDC average of 520 kilometers per charge. But since this is unachievable in the real world, the WLTP average of 380 kilometers is more accurate and the number you're likely to see in your instrument cluster. In terms of charge times, it is solely dependent on the type of charger you use. A regular home socket would give you approximately 12 kilometers of driving range for each hour of charging, meaning for a full charge, you'd need 31 hours. A slightly faster charger, such as the one found in most malls, would give you 40 kilometers of driving range for every hour you left it charging, meaning you'd still need 9.5 hours for a full charge. And then there are these super fast chargers that can charge the entire battery in just 1.5 hours. But there's only 8 of them spread across Dubai, and that brings me on to my next point. You see, many people compare owning a petrol-powered car to an EV, but quite frankly, they're hugely different. Sure, the Bolt EV and your regular petrol-powered car might both give you 380 kilometers on a full tank, but the difference is that when you're running low in a petrol-powered car, you stop for 10 minutes, fill up, and you've got another 380 kilometers to drive. In an EV, you need to wait 10 hours before you get another 380 kilometers to drive. What I am trying to make clear is that owning an EV at this current point in time is inconvenient. And to prove my point, I'd like to share a little story. To make sure the Bolt had enough charge to film this morning, I went to charge it up yesterday. And as luck would have it, the first charger I went to didn't work. I drove further away and reached the second charger, which also didn't work. Since I had no other option, I drove even further away to the third charger. Thankfully, it was empty and it did work. But because the car needed 7 hours to charge, I was left with no option but to leave it there and pay a cab to take me to the office. Which, if you think about it, defeats the purpose of having a car. Now, since the Tesla Model X hasn't got an engine under the hood, it drives quite differently to your regular petrol-powered car. For starters, it's a lot quieter in here, and that could be associated as being more luxurious. Also, it is the way in which it delivers its power that sets the Model X apart. Put it into ludicrous mode, press the accelerator pedal, and there's no delay, hesitation, or anything of that sort. Off it goes, and it's a lot if you're not ready for it. The dual motor setup that the P100D is armed with produces 762 horsepower and over 1,000 Newton meters of torque. Those are insane figures. Those are figures that allow it to accelerate from 0 to 100 faster than a Ferrari 488 and a Corvette Z06. And just to be clear, this is a 7-seater SUV we're talking about. Top speed stands at 250 kilometers per hour, but if you drive it sensibly, the Tesla Model X P100D will deliver over 500 kilometers on a single charge. That is made possible with regenerative braking that charges the battery as you drive along, and an automatically adjusting ride height that drops the vehicle's height at highway speeds to increase aerodynamic efficiency.